Alright, welcome everybody to the Newtypes podcast. I'm Kaiser Shonen, and with my co-hosts, as always, CBF and Lonecrit over here.
I'm actually over there, thank you.
God damn it, Lone.
Look, semantics, okay? And you know, we're back again this week. Better audio now, because my voice, now I'm not literally phoning my lines in, and my voice box got fixed. We're able to, you know, you're able to hear the new audio and stuff, but that's not the important part. What the important part is that before we go any further, this week, well, earlier this month, but now that we find out this week, we've had a great loss in the world of Japanese animation and manga creation in general. And, you know, and we would like to just take a moment and share our thoughts on Kentaro Miura, his death, and his work and how much it affected us. So, what are your guys' experience with the guy before I start?
I don't have much experience. All I did was watch the Berserk anime and read a little bit of the manga when I was in junior high school, I believe, and a bit in high school. And that's just about it. I unfortunately do not have much of an experience with the man, his work, and his legacy.
My experience is... I don't have much more experience than that. I've only really seen, like, some of the Berserk anime, the 97 one, and the movie trilogy. But even that, the 97 one, is a work that's kind of important to me, because it's one of the works that got me out of a funk I was having in terms of the medium in general. And it's one of the most profound and effective anime I've seen. Just the epic story it tells between Guts, Casca, and Griffith, the main trio of the bunch. The anime goes for one of the most harrowing and beautiful tragedies in the entire medium, with an amazing soundtrack by Susumu Hirasawa, and just several moments about just finding a sense of purpose. Especially when life just has you so far down to the point where you don't know if there's anything left to go, if there's any value to your own life outside of just mindlessly doing whatever it is you do.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the things that brought me to Berserk and his work in general.
It's something that needs to be heard by a lot of the people who are fans of his work, who are fans of Berserk, the anime and the manga, because that's what a lot of people are feeling now that are just lost.
Exactly. Now, my experience with it is a bit more like your CBF. I've seen most of the properties having to do with Berserk in general. I even read some of the other manga that Miura was working on, even one of the newer ones that he was doing on the side. I think it was called Izumgalo or something like that. That's not really as important though, but it is still really well drawn, is still evident of his style. But the first time I watched Berserk was around when I was like 15 or 16. I was already getting into anime at the time, but up to that point I haven't really watched an anime of like what would be considered like the upper echelons of stuff, right? You know, you got your Macrosses, you got your Technolize, you got your Lane, and you got Berserk. But yeah, overall, like that the show, ever since I really got exposed to it, like you said, man, it's a very harrowing tale and a very unique one that can only be told by someone with his particular style. Like, the dude is just a flat-out genius, not just in terms of storytelling, especially with the Golden Age, but also his art.
Yeah, I very much agree. That's the way I think I'm feeling the loss the most. It's weird, cause now I appreciate his work more that his talent has been lost in a way. Where you see the art he did when he was only 10 years old, and he was already a more supremely talented and accomplished manga just in sheer value of the visual and artistic merit of his work than some mangaka will be in their entire lives. He's one of those few people that can really be called a manga making genius or a prodigy, and just seeing where his work was later in life, you really got to accomplish the supreme mastery he had over the medium in some respects.
Yeah, the man was in a league of his own. He's affected so many different works, even beyond the anime medium itself, and I think especially with all the love that like everybody has been giving to this whole, in light of this whole thing, it kind of warms my heart to know that everyone that like knows his work, or even some people who aren't exposed to him, understand the weight that his loss has on a lot of us, and especially on the families and people that were close to him. So, Kentaro Miura sensei, it's due with us all of our honor that, like, thank you for everything. Thank you for your work, because even if we never get anything like it again, I am so glad we have ever gotten to expose to it.
Agreed.
Thank you.
You have a legacy to be proud of, honestly.
By the way, since we're bringing this up, I would also just like to mention that I was kind of hit by the fact that Shunsuke Kikiuchi passed away, I believe, 2 weeks ago, for those who don't know. He's the composer of the soundtracks of the original Kamen Rider, and I believe a lot of Kamen Rider through to ZX, as well as classic series like Robot Detective, and a lot of highly influential anime like Doraemon and Get a Robo that have really made their mark on Japanese pop culture history, the original Kamen Rider opening especially, from like people like Ano, I imagine, to Kumita Koji, one of my, I think that's his name, yeah, one of my favorite mangaka, who like you see it done in the opening for Kateni Kaizo in the OVA, stuff like that.
Yeah, and he also worked on pretty much all the core soundtracks for like the main series of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z Kai.
I would like to clarify that I'm not so much emotionally engaged by the loss. I just want to acknowledge the fact that somebody of such great importance to anime and tokusatsu, who's had such a legacy and an imprint, has been lost, and just to acknowledge the man's work and contribution.
Yeah, same here, as he was involved with soundtracks of shows that we all grew up with, myself included, with DBZ Kai and whatnot.
Yes. I think in live this week especially, and everything else, it basically just shows us how important these creators are, and that we don't always have them around, and we can kind of take that for granted. So something to keep in mind, I suppose, moving forward here.
And with that out of the way, let's get into the episode proper.
I should mention, school's out. I am done with my work. My Kamen work. My Rider work. My Kamen Rider work.
Are you implying that that Kamen Riders that all the disasters that you have to face as a Kamen Rider only take place during school time?
Yeah, it's more like a job.
It's a strongly personal job, insofar as one can describe work and the relationship with non-work as a spiritual labor rather than a strict engagement that is adherent to a formal contract, instead a social one.
So more of a calling rather than an occupation.
Yes.
Don't embellish this bullshit. We all know what he really means by this.
Of course.
I know what you guys mean. School's out. We are done.
Yes, sir.
So, what have you all been watching now that we are on break?
I'm not gonna lie, I've mainly been playing Adventure Quest Worlds. I don't know if you guys know it, you probably don't. It was popular in the US as like this weird little flash game like 10 years ago. I logged back into my account, and yeah, recently I hit level 93 out of 100, and I've been just farming for rare classes. Currently I'm working on one called Legion Revenant, and yes, it is as edgy as it sounds.
Yeah, I always like seen ads for that game whenever I play other Flash games like Sunny and Age of War and shit.
Play it.
Oh my god.
Play it.
Like all the Newgrounds stuff, I don't feel like it.
I actually have the old card game that somebody from the US once got me as a gift that I'm given to understand
It's a fucking card game?
Yeah, and it goes for a couple of $100 apparently.
Oh my
I didn't even know about Adventure Quest until you brought it up, honestly.
No. This is the Adventure Quest Worlds. The prequel is Adventure Quest.
Because of course it is.
There's also Mecha Quest, I believe, and Dragon Fable, among others, by the group making it, Artix Entertainment. And it's like, it's very anime inspired, and it's cute, and it's funny. It has a strong sense of humor. So yeah.
But does it make you feel like Spider-Man, Lonecrit? That's what we want to know. That's what the audience wants to know. Answer the question, Lonecrit.
I have no response. I don't know what to say.
So that's a no. 0 out of 10. IGN.
Well, admittedly, I feel like Spider-Man when I wear a suit while playing it.
That's something.
Okay, ignoring that. What I've been watching this week actually are a couple of things. For one thing, I'm up to like episode 10 of Space Runaway Ideon.
Space Runaway Ideon.
Oh, you mean the thing that Evangelion ripped off? You see, Evangelion's not the most important and influential anime of all time. That goes to Ideon.
CBF, why are you pinching your nose? Your robo-snobs?
To make fun of people that belligerently just try to reduce as much as Ava's influence as humanly possible because they actively hate it and just wanna flex their Ideon love instead of just like celebrating both of their accomplishments.
Yeah, and then they go to like, and then like the fundamental like final extreme, like the final form of this dumb logic would just be, oh well, actually, all media and ever creation was ripped off by the caves that were carved into by Neanderthals, and I'm just like, shut the fuck up.
Evil aliens from outer space, Kaiser. Look, okay? I'm gonna drop a bombshell on you. It is a shocker conspiracy.
Oh my god.
Tinfoil hat Lonecrit.
Either that, it's either that or a Golgom plot. Everything is a shocker conspiracy or a Golgom plot.
Humans, am I right?
Before we get to Kamen Rider again, because...
Yeah, I was gonna ask, what is Ideon actually, like, about? I've seen Shabes' video on it on the main channel, but that only gives me a little bit of an idea of some of the qualities of the Ideon, not like what the story and stuff is about.
Sure. So, Ideon, from what I've been watching it, it's an earlier work made by Tomino, before he made Gundam. I think this was like the one he made right before it, actually.
So I know Zambot 3 came right before, but yeah.
Yeah, either that or Zambot 3. But either way.
Oh yeah, it came right after, 1980.
Is it before or after he became the world's most iconic-looking, bald man? More so than Jeff Bezos.
I just checked, it was 1980. Get your circuitry fixed.
Well, excuse me, I didn't have time to archive this data before we started this damn thing, but whatever.
And to be fair, I'm broken anyway. I'm on the verge of exploding. Please help somebody.
Yeah, you look very deteriораted, but anyway,
yeah, we'll get enough cash from internet clout to fix you, don't worry. But, like,
No, we won't.
Allegedly.
Factually.
So, Ideon basically is about, these group of humans in this mostly hospitable planet, right? And they've been kind of colonizing there. And from Earth for like a few years probably. And basically some archaeologists found these mysterious machines made by an ancient civilization, which may or may not be the thing that's in the title of the fucking show. And then around the same time that they were trying to figure this thing out, these group of human-like aliens who are apparently also Earthlings called the Buff Clan Empire decided to investigate and attack the Earthlings on that planet because they want to take the Ideon for themselves for some unknown purpose up to this point.
Well, combating them must be easy. All you have to do is cut off their supply of protein powder.
Why did I immediately think of both Robotech and Get a Robo Armageddon?
It kind of is like that, ain't it?
More proof that all media just takes from other media. So technically, nothing is original, guys. Nothing can be influential.
I mean...
Listen, the ancient hieroglyphics are the precursors of anime, ladies and gentlemen. Why do you think Yu-Gi-Oh! Is so big?
And where do you think the oh my fucking god. Long ago, the ancient pharaohs... It's time to duel!
GX is better though, but enough about that. Ideon time.
But 5Ds is best. But,
No, it's
yeah.
not.
The first 7 volumes of the manga are best.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have a discussion about that. But Ideon is kind of crazy right now. Nothing all that super compelling really right now, just really off the wall in terms of just how much things escalate in general. Because, like, okay, in the first episode, right? Oh, by the way, spoilers for it, I guess, if you care about that shit. Because in the first episode, we have the group of Earthlings, this kid, the main character named Cosmo, who isn't given as much importance as the main characters you would probably think, are just like investigating.
Or a fairy godchild.
Yeah.
Fairly godparents. Fairly odd parents.
But like, they're just investigating the Ideon machines because it's a combination machine apparently made up of 3. You know, the clear Get a Robo ripping off tisms is.
Yeah, it's funny you should say that, because when you said side this, colony this, colony that, all I can think of is, side 3, side 6, side 7.
I didn't even say a colony.
You said, I think you said space
I said
colony.
they were colonizing a planet. You fucking spacist.
Oh, so they were being Brits.
Yes.
Ancient Brits. Good to know that even in the future, colonization is still a massive problem.
I mean, this planet was deserted, so no big deal. So, anyways,
I'm pretty sure that's what the ancestors of the Americans said about the Americas.
allegedly. But like, the way it started, right, it's just that these people trying to figure out, okay, where are these machines? Because they're oddly way more as advanced, if not even more so, than our current technology, and that shit was going on. But the Buff Clan were investigating them, and they had no idea that they thought they were aliens at first, because they never encountered this civilization before. So they were thinking, they have similar, like, levels of technology to us, but, like, their agriculture is lower level, like, in the Middle Ages in their time anyways. And then, like, literally, things escalated because when they touched down onto the Planet Solo, I think it's called, one of the soldiers literally caught sight of some of their machines, and they're all just like, kill it! And basically, that's just when all hell broke loose, and that's why the Earthlings are just fighting the Buff Clan right now, and they can't trust them with the Ideon.
I see.
So, moral of the story, racism is bad, okay?
So wait, that's what the conflict with the Buff Clan is about.
Yeah, basically. I mean, it seems pre-established that the Buff Clan have their own sort of, like, prejudices about, like, hypothetical, like, other races and stuff, and jump to certain conclusions.
Hypothetical.
Seriously though, every time you say the Buff Clan, I can't take you or the show seriously.
After all, Lonecrit is working on becoming a buff Chad.
So what, Lonecrit? Should I call them the B Clan instead?
No, because then I just think B-sides. Music. And then suddenly it's RahXephon.
Because of course, everything comes back to RahXephon.
Which also means everything comes back to Ava, because imagine talking about RahXephon without bringing up Ava at least once for comparison purposes on either side.
I'm so glad I haven't seen Ava.
Be in so much trouble with all parts of the mecha community.
Yeah.
Which we are a part
I'm
of.
just so glad I can talk about Argento Soma without bringing up Ava.
Who talks about Argento Soma while bringing up Ava?
I was about to say, who brings it up in general aside from us?
And
I don't know. Well, maybe if we bring up Argento Soma enough, people will actually watch it.
Argento Soma, subliminal messaging.
Watch it.
Stop telling me what to do!
Oh, listen, if it weren't us, it would be Giga telling you this shit, dude. No big deal.
No, it wouldn't. Argento Soma isn't nearly popular enough.
That's true. Well, he talked about
Fair.
Gankatsuo, so maybe.
Fair, but that one's like a high tier cult classic. Argento Soma's like, you have to dig deeper. Much deeper.
Yeah, either that or no Zeph.
But anyways though, Ideon is pretty crazy right now, just like a lot of the general stuff you would consider from Tomio in regards to the war stuff, but in this case it's a bit more focusing on like how just weird and
War is bad,
no,
okay?
a bit less about that and more just about like the general chaos of the situation, just the mysterious way that the Ideon even works and why it's even there, and just the general confusion in part of like the Buff Clan and the Earthlings and stuff like that, and just a lot of miscommunication going on.
Yeah. I guess while we're on the subject of extremely weird mecha anime, I guess I can touch back a little bit on RahXephon, because we, like Kaiser, you and I and some others in another server made it to like episode 19 so far, and it's only gotten even more off the rails and loco bonkers batshit as time went
It's
on.
so weird.
It's a show that, for the most part, I'm not confident in the direction it's going in, because a lot of it is just like, oh, a whole bunch of, like, you know how anime would often just throw out a whole bunch of, like, Norse terms and mythology there? Instead, do that with Aztec stuff, and be about as obtuse as humanly possible, combining that with the idea of, like, music, it tunes the soul, tuning, instrumentalists, and all of that for your largely barely explained world building, because because the show just wants to have about as much intrigue, weirdness, and twists as possible. I don't know quite what that's gonna lead.
Guys, I have a question. What's RahXephon actually about? You've told me the setup before, but what is it about?
It's
Okay, so like,
far it's kind of like, imagine like this guy named Ayato. He's 17. He's just living about his normal life. At most,
I know
it's
the
just
setup.
like,
That's the setup.
everything goes to hell, but that's part of the problem. 19 episodes in isn't really enough to tell you everything that Ra is about, because for a while it starts being like a monster of the week about fighting these weird, like, Dolems, but then it kind of just goes into a completely different direction where it's more about Ayato trying to find the truth about himself and about Moons and about everything about his situation, because it's a case where everything's so vague that you more so just have to explain what's going on before you get to the end, so that you can be like, oh, so that's the proper gist of things. Because right now it's just like, oh, he was whisked to this like organization. Time is different outside of Tokyo Jupiter than in Tokyo Jupiter, and now through some other stuff and reveals, he has to go back. It turns out he's like a Moolian and a whole bunch of other just convoluted stuff.
It's very, very confusing. Like, the general information, if you actually pin these things down, aren't necessarily confusing in of themselves. They're just presented in such an obtuse way most of the time. And they drag, and when I say obtuse, I mean not just because of how it's presented, but also how much they drag that shit out. Because, like, there is, like, several episodes at a time where one of the girls in, like, the show just, like, straight up disappears and reappears on a fucking dime constantly, and we have no idea why she's doing it.
And on top of that, there are other pieces of information that get doled out at the speed of light, so that there's a lot of moving parts that you have to keep track of all at once. Like, the whole thing with Itsuki, Makoto, and, like, the Itsuki's assistants that gets its own intrigue plot with, like, betrayals and stuff like that. In which case, if you're not paying as much attention as possible when those scenes come up, you're gonna have absolutely no idea what's going on.
Yeah, and like, not to lean too hard on the Ava comparisons, but I think this is pretty apt to highlight what's the issue with this show. Now, you could say, oh, but Kaiser, shouldn't you be accusing of Eva of like a very similar problem? Not really. Yes, it's a bit abstract and a bit heavy on the symbolism at times, but most of the time they tend to either do a better job of sharing that information, like, visually and in a clear way, and not drag it out for too fucking long. Whereas with RahXephon just does the opposite. It leans too heavily on the artsy aspects, which prevents you from really connecting all that much to what's going on.
And on top of that, with Ava, even though the Christian symbolism in Ava is meaningless, it's just there to make it flashier, the characters, you spend time with them and their situations to the point where it feels like you have an understanding of them, what makes them tick, everything that's going on, without a million things always going on at once. Whereas with RahXephon, it's a lot harder to connect with the characters because as you said, half the time they kind of just disappear and reappear, and entire plot points and arcs come out of nowhere sometimes, and or don't make sense,
And there
but
are
get
also
resolved
lots
very
of padding
quickly.
as well. There's also lots of padding in regards to like certain character moments and stuff like that, which can be
Yeah.
good.
Wait, padding? Padding?
Padding.
Paddington. But yeah, and like there are weirdly some points where sometimes, like in Ava, usually if a character's not really gonna be ever get much focus, they're not really gonna talk about them. Like sure, you'll get some focus on Kaji, you'll get some focus on like some of the major side characters, but you're not gonna get an episode on Fuyutsuki's backstory or anything. But with RahXephon, interestingly enough, sometimes even with characters that you don't really get to spend any time with, like Jin, you get like an actually solid episode, a half episode on his deal that seems like it might go somewhere in terms of adding to the world, and that's kind of what they try to do with Makoto as well later. But then it kind of just never really comes back up for an extended period of time. So it's just like, oh, cool, but what's this all in
Yeah, what's
service
the
to?
point
That's
of it?
what I'm.
And also because of the fact that like the characters in those backstories themselves, they don't get utilized in the plot a whole lot. So we wasted an episode focusing on them, but then they barely do much of anything for the rest of the show. And if that's what they were presented as from the beginning, I wouldn't be mad at it, but they weren't presented that way. They were given certain levels of importance. And then the show just kind of drops that less than halfway through.
Yeah. And just like the Moolian sub, the whole thing when they reveal about the Moolians, that stuff kind of just gets rushed. And again, one of the backstory episodes kind of just gets in the way of that when it should have happened earlier. It makes the show feel very haphazard, which sucks because there are some banger episodes, like when Ayato goes back to Tokyo Jupiter and things get all mindfucky, or when, you know, episode 19, the one we just watched, where they do some really inventive, emotionally evocative things with the city lights to tell a story that ends up fucking up Ayato pretty hard. I don't know where it's gonna go with that, because we still have 7 episodes left. I'm just hoping that the show somehow manages to stick the landing and not just crumble apart in the weight of its own, like, obtuse presentation and almost, like, haphazard, unfocused nature. Because there are some cool reveals and stuff, but again, some things kind of come the fuck out of nowhere or just go in the blink of an eye and whatnot.
Yeah. By the way, speaking of things that you guys have complaining to do about, recently I've been watching Mobile Suit Gundam 8th Mass Team, and I'm currently on episode 8.
Oh, that's cool. It's been a while since I've seen the show, though.
I'm gonna just spoil this. So first things first. I love you! Excuse me, what?
Gundam
Are you
romances.
talking about with Shiro and that Zeon chick?
I know. When Shiro, like, is about to die, and, like, they're both trying to hang on to dear life, and she's asking him to just escape and let her die, and he refuses, and he tries his best to save her, even though his mobile suit is, his Gundam, like, reproduction model is just melting as he's trying to hold her ship back from, like, falling over the cliff. And just when he thinks they're both about to die, he just goes, I love you! And then they don't die, and it's like... it's like, I'm sorry, where did that come from?
Yeah, the romance in 8th MS feels pretty rushed and
Yeah.
undercooked. Which, it's Gundam romances. Most Gundam romances aren't gonna be
Yeah,
very
they're
good.
going to be like that, dude. I'm sorry. Except for Gundam X. Gundam X's romance is pretty good. I will not talk shit about that one. Gundam X in general is fucking underway. Watch it. But yeah, back to 8th MS team.
Stop telling me to do things!
I swear to God, you feel like Randy Marsh and Andrew Lloyd Webber and stuff in that musical episode of South Park when they keep adding some subliminal messaging into the plays about blowjobs.
Oh yeah, I remember that shit.
I was thinking of the not so subtle
Oh,
subliminal
man.
message in that one episode of Gravity Falls where Grunkelstan is just like, buy my merch! Buy my merch! Or something like that. But yeah.
I actually rewatched that episode the other day, and it was still really, really funny. Just blowjob. It's so funny. But yeah, GG South Park. Anyway though, yeah, 8th MS team. So yeah, initially I had a very negative reaction to that moment, but then I thought about it a bit more. I thought about the conditions, how it puts people in this position where they see more of each other, where they're forced to bring out more of themselves and see more of others. And about the way that people are just sort of compelled to make connections to each other very quickly as they're that face-to-face with their own mortality and the mortality of others, kind of compelling their affection to grow that much faster and their need to make connections with others.
So what you're saying is that, you know...
Don't say it. Don't say it.
Let's say hypothetically, okay? Let's say hypothetically...
He said it.
There was a school shooting, okay? There was a school shooting, alright? And you and a girl in your class are just in the same...
Stop. Stop. Stop.
I know you're a robot, but the inhumanity of this comparison, Kaiser. Holy...
I'm sorry.
Yeah, forget the humanity, more like the inhumanity.
Look, it's a joke, okay? But I understand exactly what you're saying here.
You're gonna get cancelled for that joke, Robo Kaiser.
You should get cancelled for that joke, Robo
I barely
Fura.
use my Twitter anyway, so I'm not gonna get canceled for shit. I don't know what you're talking about.
Fucking rude, Kaiser.
Okay, Robo
You
Zombie.
did nothing wrong. But yeah, but with, like, I understand exactly what you're talking about with that sort of thing, Lonecrit. It's a little bit weird, like, narrative-wise, I suppose, where you have to walk that fine line between that viewpoint and just it being kinda rushed in general. I feel like if we had maybe, like, an episode in between all that stuff, that would have been a bit better, at least personally for me. But I understand.
And on top of that, it's a case where I like that 8th MS team does have a sense of theatrics to it, and that does come out in that situation, sorta. But sometimes it just feels like, yeah, the writing does feel a bit undercooked. That's not even the worst scene of that episode, like with Shido's... The weird way they try to frame his out-of-body experience that ends up not really making much sense in context, or just how that ends up working in its presentation. That's not going to be the only time where I get the idea, but the presentation falls flat. Like, remember when he was having that out-of-body, like, nightmare sequence about everyone dying and stuff in episode 7?
Yeah.
The presentation of that it didn't feel like it made sense to me. Even when, like, Zeph explained to me, like, it's supposed to be like an out-of-body sequence. Yeah, but it doesn't work in this context and how it's executed.
No. Personally, I kinda like it. It shows how the war between the Principality of Zeon and the Earth Federation is so all-encompassing in people's lives, how it strips... No, not strips, but how it corrodes the fabric of people's lives and the elements of people's lives that just encompass their being, or just the world they live in, and the way that people are pressured from all angles. Where you've got people like Aina with her internalized issues regarding her brother and a sense of duty by Zeon and her family, and her inclination to help her brother and boost the reputation of her family, but at the same time her feelings for Shiro, her desire not to kill, the fact that it's like this young woman that was innocent is now a soldier. You know, how she's been taught to be ruthless and bloodthirsty like we see in episode 1, but also the fact that she still has enough of a heart, the fact that she resents the war, the fact that she doesn't want to see people die and wants to see Shiro survive, the fact that she's desperate to make this connection with him. And that's just her. There's other stuff on Shiro's side as well.
Yeah.
Fair enough. That does kind of bring me to an issue I have with 8th MS team on the whole, is that in spite of that, there's little that makes me actively connect with them on that level. Especially when you get stuff like episode 6, like that obnoxious letters subplot with that one really annoying
You
guy.
know what?
Talking about, the short dude? I like that episode, actually.
You know what? I saw that episode earlier today. I actually like it as
Yeah,
well.
because, like, I forget. It was like a letter to his girlfriend, right?
Yeah, it was a case where it was like, oh, he has to let her go. This isn't gonna work anymore. But I just found him excessively whiny, and like this kind of just, it's a case where it feels rushed, and like I have no reason to care about this or like him, even though we did spend an episode with a somewhat more interesting character right beforehand. What was his name again? The blonde
The
dude
musician character. I think it was Eleanor.
when he and the other guy got captured, and he was just regretting about like, oh, he just wanted like a musician life and stuff, but now he's here in this fucking war.
Yeah, and then they were shouting and bitching at each other and fighting and saying the worst shit to each other, and then they accidentally knocked out the Zeon soldier who tried to stop them from fighting when they were just gonna be executed the next day anyway. And then they both escape, and it's like, well, water under the bridge, I guess.
We did save each other's lives just now. Whereas in other shows, that would be a bit they would do to try to escape, not just something that happened because someone had the decency to try to pick them up.
The thing is, though, what I liked about the whole thing with the short guy was the nature of the letter that he kept looking at from his girlfriend. The whole time I was just thinking, whiny, prissy bitch, focus on what's right in front of you. Well, not exactly that, but he does come across as too romantic, too emotionally involved, has to say this, dangerously focused or obsessed with this, where he hasn't got his head in the game. But then we learn what the contents of the letter actually are, where she said she can't bear with the emotional heartache of writing letters to him and the anxiety of the fact that she may just stop receiving them and that he may die, and so that she decided to stop sending letters to him first and just move on, even though he's still alive and still sort of struggling and fighting to survive alongside his colleagues. And I also really like that tender little moment that the leader of the guerrilla thieves gang, where she runs away with a letter and she's just sort of reading it, and then as she reads it, it's like, oh, fuck, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that moment was good.
When it comes to stuff like that, it makes me want to care, but I just hate the execution and presentation of that, so it just takes me out of that, because that does sound interesting and compelling. That's just kind of the thing with 8th MS, where there are a lot of things that just put me off of what could otherwise be like more compelling stories.
Agree, disagree there. There's not much we can really deliberate without really many specific examples of like how the presentation was iffy, especially in the case of Mitchell. That's the character that we're talking about.
Yeah, especially because I haven't seen this in forever, and on top of that, he's not even gotten to like the last few episodes, which outside of episode 10 are feel where the show just gets even worse. Episode 10 does have a really kick-ass fight,
that one
though.
is gonna be great.
You're gonna love that
It's probably
episode.
one of the best fights in the franchise.
Especially because it's with a character that's actually pretty cool, and is one of the few times where someone who's not in a Gundam kicks so much ass.
This is gonna sound weird to say, but even though I don't exactly like a lot of the characters, I'm still engaged by them. The show gets me to feel sympathy for them.
I got that, yeah.
I think that's a lot to do with how they interact with each other. Like Eleanor with the short guy with Shiro with what's his name, the Shinigami.
Oh yeah, that dude's cool.
Oh, Eleanor with Karen.
Yeah, and that's fair. There's this misconception where you have to like a character to consider them well written. That's not the case at all. Even if you don't love following them, if you can understand and find them compelling regardless, the show's done its job.
I think it also ties back to the, like, in regards to that misconception specifically, I think a lot of that has to do with, like, especially with, like, newer generations of fans and stuff, kinda overplace the value of relating to a character, you know what I mean?
And liking and developing them. That last one's another misconception I will get to at some point in my own channel.
Again, I feel for all of them, like the way the war pressures them. This ties back to what I said earlier about how characters see more of each other and bring out more of themselves, where the characters get thrown into these desperate situations where what they need is seen in others, and they see more in others that they wouldn't otherwise. Like even just Karen and Eleanor, the bit where she saves his life, and she has this one moment of being seen as a sort of feminine savior that I think to some degree, she not exactly craves, but likes that idea of being seen as a woman, rather than being seen in this very sort of just functional soldier light. As that, there's Eleanor's thing with, again, the short guy, or the short guy and his thing with Shiro about, like, practicality and rigidity versus allowing for just, like, being tolerant of people's humanity, so to speak. And the thing with the gorilla girl and Shiro and the other short guy, and just the whole thing with Shiro and the Shinigami Sanders, that was great. That man had lost so many people that he thought it was his fault.
Yeah, that episode was fucking incredible.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and like, I think a lot of that is also due with like the banter in the series mostly being good from what I remember.
Yeah, like, CBF, you said before that these people don't feel like a team, and I completely disagree. They feel very much like a team to
That
me.
helps bridge that gap, at least for me anyways.
I don't remember saying that, but I think it's more so that I just am so thoroughly disconnected with them for the most
To
part.
me, they feel like a team insofar as they are people that have to be together, to work together, to do one thing, and that are all under the same pressures and anxieties, and paranoias, or similar ones enemy, and all have to, like, go through the same experiences together, and how these pressures and the way they struggle and their resolve kind of binds them together, even though they don't know each other that well.
Or like each other half the time. They're very dysfunctional, but they're able to get through that because the war kind of forces them to,
Which
lest
is
they
a better
die.
teamwork story than Ruby will ever be.
I like the way that people who would ordinarily not get along or who would resent each other or dislike each other are forced to see each other's perspectives and feel for each other and connect. Again, like the girl from the Gorilla Bandits gang and the other guy.
Oh yeah, Kiki, I believe. That's
Yeah.
her name.
Yeah.
I'm not. I don't remember being a big fan of her. At least her. I think the way she was introduced, maybe, but you know.
I forgot all about that stuff. To
Also,
be
just
honest.
putting that there, I really love, by the way, the opening, but also the ending 10 years after. It really lets me feel for what every day is like for these people, just when they get to relax, how it's not all horrible. It's not exactly good, but there are moments of just being glad to be alive.
Agreed. Yeah, and I really just love the music in this show in general, especially the opening.
Also, I
theme.
like Soldier a lot. The song they normally use as the next time theme.
Yeah, like the episode.
Yeah, it
preview,
really
yeah.
makes me feel how militaristic the setting is, and also just how these people are pressured through through all the fighting and the possibility that they might die, and their duty and orders and formality, hierarchy, etc. But with that said, I do believe it's time to wrap up. What do you guys think?
All right. Sure.
Yeah,
Hey, wait, CBF, what's happening with you?
I don't know. All I know is that I know we reached max occupancy if you look at the store and everything.
Yeah,
but,
actually, how many
fuck.
people are in here? 1, 2, 3, 4... 69. 69 people. Huh.
God fucking damn it. God fucking damn it.
I am Lonecrit here with the Newtypes, CBF, and Kaizen. Wait, CBF, what's happening to you? Dude, CBF, are you okay?
And yeah, speaking of max
No,
and limit.
dude, CBF, hang on,
Wait,
CBF.
what the fuck is going on, dude?
Fuck, he's exploding!
Oh, shit.